Hello friends, today's art lesson is how to draw a person walking. We have done an earlier demonstration on how to draw people, a very simple guide on how to draw people, but drawing a person in motion requires us to think a little bit more about how a body moves and the different angles that are represented as we're drawing. So today's drawing is going to be using simple guides and shapes as we look at a photograph of somebody walking. You'll need a paper, you'll need a pencil, you'll need your imagination, and you can go ahead and follow along with me, but I hope it gives you some instruction as to how to make your own people in motion walking. Let's get started. For today's lesson on how to draw a person walking, we are going to use a photograph. This is not the best photograph, it's just going to give us a general reference because as we're practicing drawing people, especially as you're beginning, it can be really helpful to have a reference. I'm going to actually draw on this photo for the sake of teaching a few things so that you can see. We're going to think of drawing a person walking in basic shapes and gesture. And I want to draw them on this photo so that you can see. So we're going to start out with the head. And I've drawn a circle here. I'm going to draw an oval for the face. Now you can see from the neck point down to the hips right here, we've got this shape right here. Now this is not a straight down shape, it's a little bit of a diagonal off to the side. And we've got this guy's torso, we've got his shoulder right here. When you are walking or running, your arms swing back and forth. So you have this motion in your arms, and you can see how his other arm is behind him. So we've got this diagonal line here, his torso. Here is his hip area that we're going to block in. From here, we have his legs going in two different directions. Now, one leg is straight. This leg is being pushed back as he's pushing off of the ground. And this line is going at that angle. Having your eye being able to see the different angles can be really helpful. Now, we're not drawing just yet. I just want you to look at this drawing and get a sense of where we're going. And here's his foot. This leg, the one that's closest to us, that's in front, is hinged or bent. And we have his leg going in this direction until it hits the knee. And then he's bent because pretty soon he's going to be stepping on this foot and then pushing back like this one is in that motion. So we have this straight line, at that angle. And then this one is hinged at this angle. So we have our head, this direction of a line, our hips, and here where the legs are. Okay, let's get started. We're going to use this over here in the corner as a reference. I always like to start with the head. Now I'm going to be blocking this in with lines and circles just like I did with this photograph. So let's keep it really light. I'm going to do this a little bigger so that you can see. I'm going to start out with his head. Now his head is looking over to the side. His head is not a perfect circle, but it's going to give me a guide to draw this really light circle. And I'm going to kind of draw on this oval so that as I draw his head and face, I'll be able to get the right shape. Now remember, we have this direction of a line. I like to think of body positions in terms of angles or gesture. And do you see how his torso is at that angle? It can be helpful to look at it. If you're looking at a person, use your eye, or if you're looking at a photo, you can actually measure with your pencil. So he's got this direction. So I'm going to block in that line in that direction. It's going to help me now as I draw his torso, this oval shape, to keep it in that direction. We also have his hips. Now his hips are pretty centered. As you're running or walking, these are going to stay centered. So I'm going to draw his pelvis right in there. That's where he's going to hinge at the legs. Let's block in his shoulders. It's a little hard to see here. We didn't draw it, but there is this angle right here. His shoulder on this side is right here. You can't see his shoulder on the other side, but it's right there. So we've got this line, and that's going to help us have confidence that as we're drawing in this shoulder, his shoulder's up here, and his other shoulder is going to be tucked behind here, but we're going to keep that information on our paper. Now, his arm is bent, isn't it? Because he's running. And this line is going to come out at this angle. We got his elbow right here. Now, I actually drew that a little too long. Actually comes more like this. Got his angle right here. You can see how his hand is right above his hip. Do you see that? His hand is resting at that angle. So we've got those two different lines working for us. Now here is his pelvis. We're going to start right here. He has this front leg coming out, but this back leg is coming from this point. So we're actually going to draw the back leg first. Let's remind ourselves what that angle of his back leg is. Do you see this angle right here? We're going to think of that angle being like this. Now, if you're watching this video, you don't have a photo, for instance, to mark, but I want you to look at the angle of my pencil and give yourself an idea of which direction that line's going to go. So if this is his hip joint, we're going to draw that line like this. This is the angle of that back leg running. Now we have this other point that's hinged, and we have this angle right here. I want you to see that angle. His front leg to us is bent like this. Okay, so we've got this front leg, his knee point. His knee point is right about here. This guy's leg is really straight. And then his foot, see how his foot is bent? His foot is pressing up against the ground. So we're going to draw the bottom of his foot right here. Let's finish off this front leg. It is hinged like this, and then it comes in at this angle because he is running. We're going to draw that leg as though it's about ready to step on the ground, but it just quite hasn't yet. You can see now you're getting this basic direction. In this particular photograph, you see his arm. Well, you don't see his arm because it's behind his torso, and you can see his hand right about here, and you can see his wrist. This is going to help us also know that he's in motion because we're going to be able to see that his body, his arms are swinging back and forth. So this one's swinging back, and this one is just about going forth, or maybe he's going back. All right, let's block this guy in. Let's start right at the front. Now, I'm not going to take too much time to talk about how to draw faces or profiles. I think this drawing lesson could probably be done in a few parts, but I'm going to have you follow along as I draw the nose and draw the side of the face and the neck right here. This particular photo doesn't really help us very much. He's wearing a lot of clothes, and so I'm not gonna draw exactly this photo because I don't want to draw the same clothes. There's his ear. His ear is gonna always be right across from his eye. Now this is not exact. Technically it should be in a little bit of a different position, but that's okay. In fact, I'm gonna use my eraser now to erase some of the lines, but not too many because I still need a guide. From this point, we have our neck. Now, we've got our shoulder right here. We're going to go ahead and draw in our upper arm. This line, these lines that we've drawn, these are going to be our middle point. So we're not going to use those as an edge. We're going to use this as a middle. So I'm going to draw the upper part of the upper arm and the lower part of the upper arm. From this point, I'm going to draw the forearm. Now, if you were to see his forearm, it starts a little bit bigger at the elbow, and then it comes in at the wrist. So I'm going to draw it coming a little bit closer here at the wrist. Let's go ahead and finish off his torso. We've got his shoulder over here, and now we've got his back. I'm using this middle line as a guide because this is the center. I'm going to draw the sides like this. Let's go ahead and get in those legs. So once again, we're going to use these as a midpoint. We're going to start by drawing the underside of his bent leg and then the upper side of his bent leg. As we come towards the knee, it's going to get a little bit closer. And then we're going to draw the back side and the front side, his shin, like this. Now let's go ahead and draw that back leg. Because this leg right here is in the front, I got to give him a little bit of extending into his buttocks right there, which isn't really proportional exactly, but I hope this is giving you an idea. Now let's go ahead and draw the front part of his back leg. Here's the front part of his back leg and the back part of his back leg. And we've got his shin like this and here. Because I know he's got a calf muscle, I'm just rounding that out just a little bit. Like here. Great. All right, we blocked in our biggest shapes of our body. Let's go to the hands. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but when you're running or walking, your hands usually, you don't usually run with your hands out. You run with your hands not necessarily tight in a fist, but they tend to close together. So I'm going to go ahead and draw his hand. It's going to have a little bit more of a square shape. And I'm going to draw some fingers like this. Okay, let me do this again so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to draw his thumb as though it's tucked in. Then I'm going to draw his first finger, second finger, third finger, and fourth finger like that. Now here, his thumb is going to be on the top because his palm is towards his body. We'll do a lesson on hands. We're going to draw his thumb like this. Now because his hand's in a fist, you can see it here in the photo maybe a little bit better. His fingers are moving this way, so I'm going to do the same thing as I did on the other one. His first finger, his second finger. His pinky might be a little bit more closed together. I'm going to draw the top like that. And because I'm trying a little bit hard on this video, it's a little harder than I would like, and that's okay. All right, now let's give this guy feet. We are going to keep these really simple because I really want you to just get the sense of a person being in motion. So we're not going to get super detailed on these other details today. I want you to get a sense of drawing in motion. His foot, let's draw this again. So his foot is going to be flat right at the tip of his foot, because this is where he's going to be pushing off the ground, right? So this is his toe and this is the ball of his foot. Now we're going to bring this up because his heel is going to be lifted up. That's how we know he's running. And in this particular one, his foot hasn't yet, I'm going to draw this just the way we did it before, but just to remind you, his foot hasn't yet touched the ground. So it's not necessarily pressing up against something. So it can be flat or curved. And we're going to draw this guy with shoes, so it's not as detailed like with his toes. That's great. Now, because we're here, let's just finish it off. So let's give this guy, let's give this guy some high tops, just because I feel like that's what we're going for. And I'm going to give this guy some shoelaces. I'm going to maybe put some soles on the base of his shoes here. Here we go. Got some shoelaces. All right. I hope this has given you guys a sense of how to draw someone in motion. Let's just finish this guy off. We're going to give him a little bit of a t-shirt. Here we go. And maybe he's got some shorts, some running shorts, and the cutoff of the t-shirt is right here. This is going to help us see him in motion. Maybe he's got a little number on his shirt because he's running for his school team. And now we're going to erase some of these lines so he doesn't look like a mechanical man. And now you have a person running.